Hey guys, what's up? I'm just Ron Newcomb here, the Mid Atlantic Studios. I'm just setting this stuff up, so just bear with me as we come online. Alrighty. So hey guys, Ron Newcomb again with the Mid Atlantic Studios. I'm just getting this stuff fired up. So I have a phone call going, so you can join there. I also have a Facebook Live going via the Mid Atlantic Studios site, so people can join in there. And then, of course, I have a Google Hangout, so people can join there as well. So it's right at 11 o'clock. I'm going to try to honor the time and just dive in and get started. This likely will not take too long. Hopefully I've set an efficient agenda and we can just roll down that. But if you have questions or thoughts or comments, please do let me know. Hey, who just joined the call?
Dusty Burgess.
Dusty, hey, what's going on, man? So you have Errol Avellino also on the line and myself. And then I'm pushing it out live on Facebook and on Google Hangouts. So I appreciate you joining us, Dusty. So the purpose of this call, just to kind of dive in and be mindful of everyone's time. I appreciate everybody's enthusiasm and efforts to try to help out. And initially, I was thinking that I'm going to have to just do this kind of solo, and thought, well, you know what? Someone reminded me that we are a tribe, we're a community, and that this whole concept is predicated, not dependent on one person, and it's going to take the group to get behind it for it to succeed. And certainly the marketing aspect of it, I wanted to ensure that we get right so that we give enough run-up time so when this launches that we're able to make the biggest impact. But marketing is such a overwhelming entity that I started to just frankly just get overwhelmed with stuff and think, oh man, how am I going to do it all? So I wanted to reach out to you all to be able to see if, you know, you guys could help me out and make this happen. So I appreciate everybody that jumped in and are willing to give a hand. So the purpose of this call specifically is for the Mid Atlantic Studios and to talk marketing. But then at the end of it, as much as you all want to ask questions about what the Mid Atlantic Studio is and how it's going to operate and work, you're welcome to. Hopefully the site has a good portion of that, but I'm happy to answer any questions as well. So it really is based around the marketing, the PR strategy. I have created a list of outlets for our region and even beyond, and I'm putting those in a giant Google Doc, and it really is all the various media outlets around. And so one of the byproduct benefits that I'd like to offer is that when we get this list, this group list, and you can add to it, so you'll have editing powers in it, that you can then also be able to utilize. So when it's you have a need, you have a drive for it, that you need a media list as well, that this becomes a communal list because you contributed to it. And it's only going to be everybody that helps is going to get access to this list. Okay, so that's kind of the benefit byproduct of this thing. So when you greenlight your project and you have stuff going on, you have a media list that you can go to as well. Because I know I've been working a media list for years now, and they can be like gold. Marketing, predominantly, I'm defining that as is basically paid advertising, whereas PR really is getting a story or free press around the concept or idea that you are pushing. And currently right now, of course, we're talking about Mid Atlantic Studios, so that anyone that contributes can have access to the document and they can then use the document. I'm also going to create, and I have a press release that I have put together. And that will be when you create the email to send out, that will be a hyperlink that you can utilize to be able to push more information. So should the receiver on the other end want more information, they have that. I've put together a sample email also to kind of just make it ease for like a cut and paste mentality. But what I've seen that doesn't do well is when you just copy every email that you have and you put it into this list. That generally doesn't work. You BCC it, and you send it out to everybody. It just doesn't work. You have to create a little bit of a unique element to each email based upon who you're sending it to. If you don't make it specific to that outlet, the likelihood of them reading it as though it was meant for them is not strong. They will see it as what it is, just a spam, letter. And many times it does get put in spam. So the concept also is I've created an email address for contact@midatlanticstudios.com. And at the end of this call, I'm going to ask those that would be a part of this, that would like to and be willing to, quite frankly, help out, send me an email to that email address. I will then give you the account and the password, because what I'd like to do is simply send all emails from this account. What I really need help with is sending the emails. Anybody that replies to it, I can monitor the email address. I can reply to them once the emails go down range. But what I'm hoping for is help getting emails out. Now, I know some people on the call, like Errol, for instance, they have personal connections to certain outlets. And I'm happy for you all to be a brand ambassador and to use your own email address should you so choose. And I encourage you to make the sample email unique to you. So it really is also, if you go to an outlet and you try to commercialize the email and say that it's about trying to get eyeballs on equity crowdfunding, the likelihood of them posting about it is about 0%. What it has to be about is story driven. It must be about a story that we're presenting to them. And I believe we do have a story that's unique enough specifically to the region. And that is the fact that this studio is going to be owned by those of us in the region. And then we'll hopefully create sustainable filmmaking, as it'll be 100% stories by cast and crewed by those of us in the region. And that is the unique differentiating factor. Now, there is a little bit of personal element to it as well, because I found also that people like to hear about, okay, who's kind of doing this? And certainly I've put a few things in there that I'm hoping will help as well. And that includes the fact that I was a Marine and I became a police officer and then turned filmmaker. And that, again, kind of probes the question of, wow, that's kind of an interesting path, and hopefully can help them, the receiver on the other end, see and visualize the story. We do have the URL, midatlanticstudios.com, which now just redirects to the WeFunder page. And what I would ask you to do even right now is when you click on that link or go to that URL, it's going to bring you to the WeFunder page. First, I would love to hear any feedback you have. Many people have sent me very specific feedback elements around this, and I definitely appreciate the more specific you could be, the more helpful. Errol did a really deep dive into this, and I'm working through his updates now. I freely admit that I write like I talk, and that is not always the most grammatically correct way to do things. So I realize that is, if there's a better way to say it, I want people to feel empowered to see this as a communal opportunity to help me out. So if you go to the midatlanticstudios.com, you can see just below the fold there, a green little circle on the right says follow. If you could just click that, what this is a equity crowdfunding platform, and it's live in the sense that you can see it, but it's not live in the sense that you can back it just yet. So if you could just hit follow, that would be helpful, again, so we can prove numbers. The only way that this is going to work is if we are able to do this as a community, if the tribe gets behind it. So I've expressed the purpose of this call, and this opportunity is around PR and marketing. I am going to put some marketing dollars towards Facebook ads, very specific direct around that. I do have an email list that I utilize. As I'm pretty sure everybody knows, I'm also the owner of the Forge Studios. So that email list is what I've been working on for several years. Anyone that contributes will then have access to the document so that they can use later on as well. I've created a press release and a sample intro email, and we're going to be utilizing a communal email address of contact@Mid-Atlantic Studios. And I'm not going to assume you're going to do this. You would need to send me an email at contact@midatlanticstudios.com, just saying, hey, Ron, I'm willing to jump in and give a hand. And simply it's because that you catch the vision of how important this is, and if this can, the fact that this can work. So I'm really hopeful that, this is going to be a big game changer for us. I still have some other arrows to fly downrange to keep the cameras rolling, but this specifically is for the Mid-Atlantic region. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and pause for a moment. And if anybody has a question, please do chime in now and let me know. Does anybody have any questions about things?
So Mid-Atlantic Studios, it's not going to be like so much a tangible production house studio like Paramount Pictures or Pinewood Studios or anything like that. It's just more of like a collaborative meeting of the minds. Hey, I've got this script. Can you guys look it over, make any corrections, suggestions? How does it sound? Does it flow right? More of like a meeting of the minds kind of a thing.
So it's hopefully, Dusty, it's even a little bit better than that. So the question was, is it going to be an actual physical studio, and is it more of like a collaboration of the meeting of the minds? So I'm not opposed to it at some point down the road being potentially a physical studio, but we already have great studios in the region, and I want to come alongside those. So this is a studio in the sense of it is a film community based in the Mid-Atlantic region, defined as Maryland, DC, Virginia, West Virginia, North and South Carolina. So it is not a physical studio yet. There will be office space that I've already spoken to, began the conversation with an area over in Manassas, Virginia, that hopefully we can occupy for some business space, but it's not a studio space, again, because I love the studios that we already have here in the region and don't want to necessarily compete with them. I want to complement them. But as far as getting stories made, there will be a vetting process of which members get to vote up scripts. Think of it as the blacklist. So if you're familiar with that at all, you're hopeful that the best scripts will rise to the top because members will submit them, and we will all be able to vote up the best scripts. And so there's a vetting process to that. I then have a board of advisors that will then each script that gets pushed to the final element, which is approval and green light, must be backed by at least one board member. And they will then present a small number, approximately 3 scripts, to the CEO, which is me currently, and I will then decide based upon budget, time, area, what project gets green lit. Does that answer your question, Dusty?
Yeah, it does.
All right, good. So hopefully,
Hey, Ron.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, this is Anthony.
Hey, Anthony.
Hey, so are you talking about like when we submit a script? Are you talking about just like maybe just
submitting a treatment or the entire screenplay? Like
all right.
120 pages.
Yeah. So the question is, do you submit a treatment or do you submit the full script? Initially, there are several tiered rounds that you would go to in order to get greenlit, of which I'm going to have a infographic to kind of explain that. And maybe this is something that I should do sooner rather than later about how one gets a script greenlit. Initially, it will be the log line and the one-page synopsis. At that point, it will then be asked to advance to send the script. Now, the turnaround time is going to be as such that the likelihood of you being able to write the script, let's say in a week, is not strong. So it should be a script that you have or are close to having finished, wrapped up. Doesn't mean that you can't bang one out, but you're going to initially be asked to have the log line and the synopsis. That will then get approved, and an ask will be for the script. The script will be submitted and vetted, and it will be just like in what the studio structure in Hollywood does well. It'll be a pass, considered, recommended, and based upon those will decide to get advanced to the next round. The advisors will then weigh in on those, and those get marginalized down to what gets approved and sent before the CEO for green light consideration. Does that answer your question, Anthony?
Yes, it does.
All right, great. Does anybody else have any questions, particularly around marketing or off script, and just talk about the Mid-Atlantic Studios? So our timeline is I have everything submitted and approved onto the platform. So we literally could launch at any moment. And I have one final stage that WeFunder is looking at, but should be done. She was even saying early next week, as in Monday or Tuesday. And I was originally thinking about, should I wait till like spring to launch, because we're rolling into, November, December, Christmas time. And she, being WeFunder, my contact at WeFunder, was very encouraging to say they actually have some of their biggest months in November, December with investments. Investments are usually not predicated around Christmas time, and it doesn't spoil it. So each film project is going to have a budget of approximately $1 million, and the goal is to greenlight 3 projects. So the full all-in with a little bit of studio overhead is about $3.5 million. The minimum we need to hit for this first round is $100,000. That would get somebody be able to work on this full time. That'll get attorney fees covered, CPA, etc. Onto that, and some development funds. Then the next would be to greenlight our first film project. I have 2 scripts that are ready to go, specifically to move right into production, because again, the goal is to keep the cameras rolling. The 3rd script is left open so that the members can then push the script forward in the scenario that I laid out before. Did someone else have a question?
So my question is a little bit more marketing oriented.
Sure.
Do you know? So one of the things I've thought about for this, and I don't know how strong the value is, but I feel like there could be a strong value here. I feel like a lot of people in the area feel decentralized, like they're not a part of a hub, and they've tried to create mini hubs all throughout, and we've seen that working with people. I think one of the things that might be interesting is if the introduction to like marketing this thing is trying to pull people onto like joint documents that is essentially like a database of all the filmmakers in the area.
Yeah,
so you don't lose people right away when they look at like, oh, I have to throw money on this thing. You might get a bunch of people coming in who want to be a part of the database, and then you can continually follow up with them and answer questions like these as they evaluate the campaign itself.
No, it's a great point, Errol. And Errol, I've worked with Errol for a lot of years now. If you guys don't know Errol Avellino, he's out in Winchester, Virginia, a great filmmaker, storyteller himself in his own right, and has a lot of things in his Rolodex to be able to jump in and give a hand in various elements. So Errol, you know more than most actually about this new idea that Zibo and I have been working on. Zibo's been working on this thing for 2 years. So what Errol mentioned was, could we do a database that would be able to house those of us in the region to be able to better reach out to the needs we might have and unify, because we are fragmented in a tech world where we shouldn't be. And although Facebook and things are great, we still hold to state lines. We're very divisive amongst our own states, which I want to see us more as the region. I had some great calls yesterday with the Maryland Film Office and the Virginia Film Office, and sent emails out to the other regions and made calls down there. But specifically, we are going to be launching a new blockchain type of element to this that is brand new to anything I've seen as far as filmmaking goes. And within that blockchain opportunity, there is a database structure. So think of it as the best illustration. And I'm going to get Zibo on a live one day, and maybe again sooner rather than later, to talk about this. Think of it as Airbnb. And that's the better illustration to utilize, because Airbnb, you get to rate the place and then they get to rate you for staying there. And everybody wants a strong score there. And so there's an opportunity and an encouragement and an incentive to be able to do your best and try. But it also creates a repository and a database that you can then be able to pull and review in. And anybody that's a member can become a part of this database and can become a part of the blockchain. And what blockchain does really well, a lot of us immediately know that it can translate into cryptocurrency. And so to give an example where that comes into play, because this is a group-owned studio, literally, that what can happen, let's say I hire Errol to help out with marketing and PR, and generally Errol charges $5,000. But if he only says, all right, Ron, I'm only going to charge you $2,500, instead of it being, okay, the other $2,500 goes in deferred payment, which never gets paid back, he actually gets equity ownership into the company, of which he can cash out in real cash, or he can roll it over into this new CineFrame currency. I know that's starting to get into the weeds a little bit, and a little bit more complicated than it needs to be with stuff. And I'm going to bring Zibo on to help illustrate this and to communicate it. And Zibo's put together a really nice white paper on this. But the short answer is, with that blockchain element comes a robust database that we will be able to literally see other filmmakers throughout the region, what they do, what they can offer, if they have gear, if they've worked on other projects, what their score is, where they, did they contribute well, all these things. And so you can even do that with scripts. And so the stories that should get told will rise to the top. Does that help answer your question, Errol?
Yeah, for sure.
So that's a great.
It sounds like that could be a good place to potentially point people to as this thing gets built out. There's already kind of an offer available.
Yeah, exactly. And it is, this database blockchain it's really kind of everybody's thinking kind of new ways to do, but this can keep our costs low, keep the cameras rolling, but not punish the filmmaker to have to take less than what they're valued at, and they can still take advantage of the upside when the film makes money. And I say when, because why would you greenlight a project if you didn't think it was going to make money? So, yeah. Does anybody else have any questions that I can answer around the Mid-Atlantic Studios, just at large? Just want to make sure that I'm being mindful of everybody's time. And I appreciate everybody being on the call. So what are next steps? The next steps would be, if you are willing to help out, which I definitely need and would appreciate, is going to take a tribe to pull this off, that you would send me an email to contact@midatlanticstudios.com and let me know that you're willing to help out with the press and marketing push. I'm going to then send you the account information for contact@Mid-Atlantic Studios, which is where you will send emails from, and give you access to a large media outlet database within Google Docs. And in the far left side, there will be a section for notes. Before you send an email, because all of us are going to be working it, go ahead and just put in the notes, email sent by, and just put your initials. So I would put email sent by RN, and put the date would probably be good. You don't need to put the year. You could just put 10/13. So I know you sent it on the 13th, who sent it, and the fact that it was sent. And then also I have the press release and the sample email. But again, only use the sample email as much as a tool to help get that email out the door. If it's not unique enough, then it's not going to be received. And then please add to the media list. For instance, I know there's radio stations and localized, TV and etc. And I am open to interviews. So if there's someone saying, hey, can we get somebody from Mid-Atlantic Studios over here to interview? More than welcome. Even in fact, that's a desire to do. So, any other last questions as I start to wind down? All right. I will take silence as consent and thumbs up. Good to go. So I will be keeping an eye out for everybody's email. I appreciate everybody's time today. Super excited about the Mid-Atlantic Studios and the questions. Do jump on midatlanticstudios.com and follow it. And it does help when we post stuff. If you guys would like it and share it, that does get it around, and it is helpful, particularly with Facebook analytics. So any help that you guys can get with getting the word out there would be much appreciated. Again, this is only going to work if the tribe gets behind it. So, all right, guys, I will be standing by for your emails. I'll be working hard over here, getting stuff out on my end as well. So please do let me know. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will talk to you guys later.
Thanks, Ron.